So the longer the lever, the more leverage I have. So sometimes it's not so much about the thing that you're moving, it's about how much leverage you have. Short levers can only move short things, short distances. The longer the lever is, the more I have the ability to move something. Leverage. This is highly important. Now, the technical definition is what I just gave you. But the understanding of leverage is to use something to its maximum advantage. Leverage is to use something to its maximum advantage. The question is, are you using the things in your life to its maximum advantage? What can you use as leverage? The first thing that you can use as leverage are your assets, your strengths, your gifts. Those are the things you bring to the table. Those are huge assets for you. What do I do differently? What do I do better? What can I do? You know, Heinz, the one who started the Heinz franchise, he said, to do a common thing uncommonly well. That's how great things are built. To do a common thing uncommonly well. So that's one of it. I can use my assets as leverage. Whether it is I am going into a company to look for a job, or I am creating a company to change the landscape of my community or the nation. I can do it by using my assets as a leverage. The second thing that we can use as leverage, our network. I heard it said you'll never know your net worth if you don't know your network. Crises. Crises is, yeah, that's the core of crisis. Remember I told you yesterday about Madam C.J. Walker. Right. How her name was, her given name, because that's not her birth name. Her birth name is Sarah Breedlove. And as Sarah Breedlove, she was an orphan. She had lost both her parents. By the age of 14, she had lost her husband, who they believe was abusing her, but that's a whole other thing. Had lost her husband by the time she was 19. She's 21, and now she's losing her hair. She's got this young child she's trying to take care of. And in losing her hair, which was the crisis, she found a way to create a concoction that would grow her hair back. And she realized, if it could grow my hair back, how many other people can it change? And so she found at the end of her life that what she found, have you ever heard the saying, laugh now, cry later? Sometimes you cry now, you laugh later. She realized that the thing that happened, to the best of her ability, the thing that she realized that she thought was going to be the worst thing, actually turned out to be the best thing for her. Because she was able to use that crisis as leverage. Now there's two things I want you to write next to crises use as leverage. You can use your own personal crises as leverage. That's an example. That's an example.
That's me.
That I just gave you of Madam C.J. Walker, who used something personally that was going on in her life as leverage to shift her into the next season of her life of success. And it catapulted her into success. So leverage is about knowing how to use your assets, knowing how to use your network, knowing how to use your crises. But last but not least, is knowing how to use momentum. I was just giving this analogy to one of my mentees just earlier this week. I said, what you're trying to do is get the train started. If you've ever tried to start a locomotive train or watch a locomotive train start, it takes a tremendous amount of energy for it to get started. In fact, it could take tons. And it's pulling all of these other cars, especially if it's a freight train. You could have one engine that's pulling 40 other freight cars. And it takes a long time to get that started. But when that thing gets started, it'll go through a concrete wall. That's why they have those things that come down when you're going across the road. Because they let you know, even when they can see you, it might take a mile for it to stop.
Railroad crossing.
Yeah, it could take a mile for it to stop. You take a rocket. A rocket burns something like 95% of its fuel.
Just to take off.
Just to take off. Just to break through the atmosphere. But that's an analogy for life. It takes all of this energy just to break it through. But once it breaks through Earth's atmosphere, the last 5% is what it uses to get all the way to Mars. Isn't that crazy? It takes 5% of fuel to get all the way millions of miles away to another planet, but it took all of that fuel first to just break it through. And for many of us, it's the same way with our lives. For some of us, the reason why we are not being as productive as we could be is because we never build momentum. And you want to know why we haven't built momentum? Because we haven't stuck with something long enough. You were at the job for 3 months, and then you got done with it. And then you went somewhere else for 8 months, and you didn't like that either. And so you shifted your career. And then you were in there for about a year. And then you said, you know what, no, I want to go back. And so you never had the opportunity, like the train, to build momentum. Because you stop and you start. And you stop and you start. I remember my grandmother was one of those. She said, my grandmother was one of those. She said to me, look, when we would take road trips with her, you go to the bathroom, you do everything you need to do. We're not going to stop a million times. Because we got to get to where we're going. Momentum. When you have built up momentum, you will find so many things will begin to shift in your favor. So leverage sometimes isn't just about assets. It is that too. Assets, network, using crises, but building on that momentum, going and going. And once you got something started, I showed you the songwriter who writes for Cardi B and Beyonce and Drake and all these other people. Yeah. Well, she's 21, and I liked how she talked about how hard it was getting started. Now her phone was blowing up. People are calling her left and right. Why? Because the momentum got started. Once you have that leverage, then you can use it to begin to really make the impact that you're looking to make. Once you have the leverage, once you know how to use the assets, the crises, the network, the people, now you begin to use it because leaders have a keen ability to be able to use leverage to achieve common goals. They have this keen ability to be able to use leverage to make an impact. Impact is all it is built on having used leverage. I want to say something else about momentum because I think momentum is, I put it last, but it might be in some ways one of the most important ones.
I think so.
Napoleon said, I conquered Europe by marching. It's like, well, what does he mean? He explained, well, he didn't explain, but later it was explained, that he was able to march his army in what would take another army, in what would take most armies, even the most trained ones of the day, 3 days, he could do it in 2. So what he found was, it was momentum. He could get places quicker and take advantage strategically of positioning himself and his military because of the momentum. And it's the same way in life. Now once I have the momentum behind me, I'm using these things and I have the momentum behind me, I can take this leverage and I can do anything. I can go and I can work at a job and I can end up making fabulous amounts of money. I can create my own company. I can create my own products because now I have the leverage. For what it's worth, I almost hesitate to mention this, but I think it should be mentioned. For whatever people might feel about, certain things people do, and I don't necessarily condone it. My one of my lessons in the penal system was learning, if you're going to commit a crime, I mean, you shouldn't, but if you're going to commit a crime, have leverage. What do I mean? Look at this whole investigation that's going on right now in the political sphere. You have some people that probably should be under the jail. They're not going to go. Why?
They got leverage.
They got leverage. See, you did something wrong, and it was you and your cousin that they don't really care about anyway. So you tell them about something, but who cares? These people say, oh, no. I'm not going to jail because I know something that the president did. Oh, wait a minute.
They got leverage.
Let's hear about it. The same way that it works negatively in that sphere is the same way that you can use it to push what it is that your agenda is in a positive way. Because you have leverage. Because now I have something to offer. Now I have something that you need. Now I have something that you want. Now I have something that is coveted. When you have something that's coveted, people will find ways to move around you. Once you get indispensable, so this brings it full circle. That's why I talk about strengths, skills, passion. What am I great at? What can I do differently? What do I have that nobody else has? What are the things that God has given me that I know is locked in me, that if I unlock it to the world, I'm just on a whole nother level, because that gives me leverage. That's why you have certain people that can say, oh yeah, I want to fly in a private jet there, because it's not just you're going to bring me there. And then when I get there, I'm going to stay in the top suite. And in the suite, I want M&Ms, and I want just green M&Ms. But if you have people to do that, like who's sitting around and pick out all the green M&Ms for? But when you have leverage like that, they'll find somebody to do it. Because you know what? You have a talent. You know how to sing in a way that we can't get somebody else to do it.
They're going to cater to you.
Yeah, you know how to do something. Because now you have something that's different that allows me to be able to find the not just the people, but to accommodate your requests. When you have leverage, you can make outrageous requests. When you have leverage, people will deal with your idiosyncrasies and your personality. I'm telling you, I'm not saying it's right, but it's true. Because now you got leverage. I'm going to tell you this quick story about leverage, and then we'll be done. Mahalia Jackson.
Oh yeah.
May not mean much to some of you, but Mahalia Jackson was the quintessential gospel singer of her time.
Yeah.
She was more than just a gospel singer, she was an icon.
Yeah.
Mahalia Jackson came at a time when particularly black artists were not paid well, if they were paid at all.
Right.
So Mahalia Jackson had this phenomenal idea. She had leverage. She wouldn't do what other people do, which was that they would go to the concert, they would perform, and then afterwards the promoter would have a story. You know, whatever the story is. A lot of money to come through, or we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that, or whatever. Mahalia Jackson said, you know what? I know exactly how we're going to do this. She did something that nobody else did, and she was paid handsomely well for this. Mahalia Jackson would show up at the place. She would sing her heart out and perform. And then, halfway through, 60% through, when the crowd was working to a frenzy, she'd go in the back. And she'd have someone go and tell the promoter, not coming back out until I get my money. The crowd's going crazy because they think it's a part of the show. They think she was doing it when she did, because she's a true performer. So she'd sing a song, and then, she might have a change of clothes. So they're thinking this is all part of the show. The promoters are sweating, and she's like, what's the old saying? In God we trust, everybody else paying cash. Until you bring me cash, I'm not going back out. And now, she didn't just have the leverage of her voice. She didn't just have the leverage of her record sales. She had the leverage of the whole crowd out there, chanting for her to come out. And they worked themselves into a frenzy. They don't really even know what's going on, but the promoters are like, somebody got to get this lady her money. Every single time, that's how she got her money. They found a way to bring her money, and then she'd come right on out as if nothing had happened and sing the rest.
They did it, they did it.
She used leverage. And the same way Mahalia Jackson worked that crowd and worked those promoters,
She built up
in an unjust system. Because that's what I want you to understand. She used, Instead of complaining about, oh, it's not fair, okay, how do I get around it? That's what leverage will do. Let me not spend all my time talking about all the artists aren't getting paid and this and that. Use leverage. So the same way in your life, there may be things that are unfair and things you're working against that shouldn't be the case. But if you can find a way to use your leverage, you'll get around it every time.